Welcome to our Premier League roundup. My name is Richie Prior. I am talking to you live from, well, not live, but obviously you're going to be listening to me from the island of Mallorca. And my good friend Adam Bridge, who's listening and talking to us. Where are you, Adam? Costa del, where is it?
Costa del Birmingham. I wouldn't use the word Costa today, to be fair. As you can see, I've donned the cap and the jumper this week compared to you.
I was going to say, I couldn't believe... And I said, Adam, you're in a jumper. What are you doing? And you told me it's freezing cold in Birmingham today. Yeah.
I would say there's probably about a 16-degree difference between the two of us right now.
No way. Really?
Yeah, very much so.
So we are catching up on what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and then obviously looking forward to what's going to be happening this weekend in the Premier League. So I think, first of all, Adam, I have to tip my hat to you and say, yeah, you are the expert in all this. You did predict that Everton would be a surprise package, and lo and behold, top of the league.
Yeah, I didn't. It's a long way to go. I didn't understand the views of many that James Rodriguez was a real question mark. To me, that just didn't cut it. Here's a guy that performed admirably for Real Madrid. And it's not like they palmed him off anywhere. They loaned him to Bayern Munich. So they don't have poor players at Bayern Munich. And the idea of him coming to the Premier League, and I mean, just that first performance against Spurs, you saw his outstanding quality and his vision on the ball. And then you saw more of the same against West Bromwich Albion. Although, as we discussed previously, defensively in particular, it's a really poor West Bromwich Albion side. But then when you add in Ancelotti and you add in as well a Calvert-Lewin that's on fire, and Alan, obviously, who appeared in the summer as well, who's the best midfielder I think they've had since someone like Idrissa Gueye, who obviously just used to really knit the back line and the forward line together and was that key link man for playing some decent football going forward. And with Ancelotti as the coach, they've got a decent package, and I was confident they'll be a top six challenger, and I think they're gonna stay the course, hopefully.
And even Jordan Pickford, of course, who has been criticised in the past, has actually quite solid.
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't become England's number one if you're not a decent goalkeeper. But I think all goalkeepers go through those phases, and I think he's had a bit of a crisis of confidence. But the quality is there. I mean, look at David De Gea. You can't argue about the quality of him as a goalkeeper. Yes, he's had a rough 6 months, but does that make him a bad keeper? I mean, I think Kepa's probably an exception to that rule on the basis of everything I've seen from him at Stamford Bridge week in and week out. But good keepers are good keepers. They will go through everyone goes through spells of good and bad form. And I think Pickford's probably now feeling a little bit more confident. He's really content with the back line he's got in front of him. And I think he'll be a key player for them this season.
Okay, so big story since we last spoke, of course, is Gareth Bale returning to the Premier League. I'd had a few conversations, obviously, people I know over here in Spain, and a lot of people seem to think it was going to happen. I wasn't too sure, I'll be perfectly honest. I was a bit more pessimistic, but particularly as his agent had said in the past that he's not leaving, he's very happy, yada, yada, yada. But, and who was going to pay the wages? Good signing, bad signing? What do you think?
Well, I think, firstly, how long can you go on not plying your trade and doing what you love? And I know he loves golf, and he was getting plenty of that in, of course. But he seems to, with the property he's looking at in England, he's looked like he's tying the two things together because there's plenty of golf facilities around it. So, is it going to be a good signing? I think so. I think again the same rule applies to James Rodriguez and Gareth Bale. In Bale's case, obviously he's falling out with Zidane. I thought the way they treated him at the end of last season was disgusting. I thought it was contemptuous. I think you look at what he delivered at that football club. And to be treated in the manner that he was, not even included in squads for key games at the end of the season, and even matches that didn't really matter. I thought the behaviour of Zidane was really disappointing. I think going back to Spurs was always the first option. I think Daniel Levy sees it as a real kind of key signing. Let's be honest, shirt sales will pay the wages and the fee that they're paying for him. Probably no problem at all. Bale number 9 is going to be flying out the door. And a front line of Son, Kane and Bale once he's fit, I think it's quite exciting. I think it's exciting for Spurs, and it's exciting for the Premier League as well. We want the best players in the Premier League, and Gareth Bale undoubtedly has probably got a point to prove as well.
I'd agree with that. I'm sort of, as I do support the other side of North London as well. Do you know what I mean? And this is not my Arsenal head on here. There's a couple of things that I'm not quite sure about. One, the money that he's on, and he's walking into a dressing room with players who are obviously going to be on less money, have been at the club, a lot longer than him. In fact, I know there's a couple of players that have been there when he last left, to be perfectly honest. Will that upset the apple cart in the dressing room? And number two, that you've signed him, and he can't actually play for a month, so you're going to pay about $1 million out in wages because he's injured. That's going to be, I think, where the problem is. That he had, as you just said, he hasn't had the game time over the last 2 years. How injury prone is he? Because that was the problem he had in Madrid quite a lot. He was injury prone. And will he get himself through enough games in order to be an influence on the team?
Well, and the other side, of course, that you haven't mentioned there is the relationship with the manager. Because as we've seen with Dele Alli in the last week or so, the relationship with Mourinho and some of those players is tempestuous at the best of times. I think, he's going to be the man to put the arm around Gareth Bale and try and give him that confidence and gee him up to be the player that he knows he can be and will want him to be. And I think that'll be crucial as part of it. I think all your points are valid. I think injury-wise, yeah, absolutely. But I think when you've got a player like him who's got that desire to succeed, which he seems to have got back just from the way he's been speaking. As we say, he was someone who said he wouldn't be coming back to the Premier League anytime soon. And all of a sudden, there's a sudden turn. Something must have kicked in him when he realises he's 31 years of age. And actually, his football career at this moment is going nowhere. And yet he's still got 2 or 3 decent years in front of him, you would say. So I'm really positive about it. I agree with you on a few of those question marks. There's things that need to be answered. And the relationship with Mourinho, I think, is absolutely going to be crucial to that. And I'm in two minds on the Mourinho front, in the sense that I love him. I can't deny it. I love him. And if I was any other way inclined, I would love him some more. But my heart says, he's still got it. My head is starting to question whether he's still got it. Because a couple of failures, that getting Man U to second was a terrific achievement. But along with that, you have to keep a relationship with your players. I manage at Sunday League level. And, the relationship between me and the lads that play for me is so important. And I just worry that everywhere he goes, there's one or two that he falls out with and he singles out. And maybe that's the legacy he's starting to leave, rather than the Mourinho who coached Porto to such success, delivered what he delivered at Chelsea, and then obviously went on to do elsewhere in Europe. So he's key for Bale's success for me.
Let's talk about his old club, actually, then, Manchester United. I probably can't add to what's already been said, how awful they were against Crystal Palace. Although it must be said, I think Crystal Palace actually did play very well as well, set up very well. Just totally outplayed a team that was, let's put it this way. I think Man United's team on paper was worth about 650 million and Palace is worth about 150 million, of which Zaha was pretty much most of the 150 million, if the truth be known. But United was so poor, and there's still the jury out on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Is he the man? There's people sort of saying that, would anybody in the top 20 teams in Europe, if they were looking for a manager, would they look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer?
Well, no one touched him after Cardiff, did they? It was a baptism of fire for him, and he had to go back to Norway to prove himself. But the level of football you're proving it yourself there is slightly different. Can we judge this on one performance? I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon. I've seen a lot of people who, maybe are colouring because they're Man United fans, their views, and saying actually he wouldn't get anywhere else. They were the ones that loved the idea of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being the Manchester United manager. When Rio Ferdinand started saying Ole's at the wheel, everyone was buying into that. Everyone thought it was the perfect fit. They all thought it was brilliant. One performance that was poor against the Palace side, who, as they showed on the first weekend, they're sorted out. They've brought, they're playing with a makeshift defence, but actually pushing Zaha up front is very clever because he can terrorise teams. And he's seeing more of the ball and he's getting more involved in games. So they'll be dangerous. They're always dangerous. But Roy Hodgson's taken his time to sort that team out. So it's early to jump on the bandwagon. I can't stand all these Man U fans who start, this is not right for us, he's not right for us. They wanted him, they've got him. End of last season, they were playing fantastic football. Give the boys some time to sort it out. And all this, get the checkbook, get Sancho in. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. They should have done the deal ages ago if they wanted it. It is not going to happen.
No, and obviously, you know, the announcement that we're going to come on to in a second about the, you know, the government have announced the COVID situation back in the UK is not going to help as well. But I just think that it's been sort of pointed out that Chelsea have strengthened. You know, Chelsea have spent money that obviously they hadn't spent the year before because of the transfer ban. Liverpool, I think we were criticising Liverpool the last time we spoke that they hadn't signed anybody, and all of a sudden they've signed 2 players in Jota and Thiago. All of a sudden that makes that team look fantastic, although I think we both agree they still need a good centre-half as cover. Arsenal signed some good players, so the squad's better. You know, you could even say Tottenham, you know, have to put in a couple of good signings in Reguilon and Bale. And United is sort of saying, well, we haven't signed it. Obviously, they haven't signed Donny van der Beek. He scored, of course, in the game against Palace. But there is still a good squad. I mean, you know, as you said, he got them playing well at the end of last season. There's still a good squad there, but I think United fans are pushing them towards buying more. I think they need a more mobile centre-half, personally. I'm not quite sure if Van der Beek, Fernandes, Pogba can work together as a 3. I'm not sure if that's going to work for them. And if you look at up front, the 3 boys up front, if they clicked, that's Greenwood, Martial and Rashford. Once again, they're another, you know, we talked about Bale, Kane and Son. We talk about Firmino, Mane and Salah. You know, that's a good top 3 up front. So, you know, you think, you're probably right. I think we need to give them a bit more time.
They did click at the end of last season. They were fantastic, the 3 of them. Martial was scoring goals for fun. We saw what Greenwood can do. We saw a little bit of it in the Carabao Cup earlier this week as well. I think you've got that as a key thing. The 2 problems areas for me, and they were always a problem area, were the other centre-half, you're right, because you can't put everything on Harry Maguire's shoulders, but everyone, again, is blaming Harry Maguire for any problem United have at the back. And Luke Shaw at left back is the other problem for me, because everything that he's been criticised for in the past, we saw in action on Saturday night. You know, he was too slow to respond and close his man down for that first goal. There was no 2 ways about it. He wasn't doing his job, but he wasn't working hard enough. As Patrice Evra said, he did not work hard enough. It's that simple. And, you know, I think, and I said at the end of last season, they needed a centre-half, they needed a left-back. For me, that's fine. They're looking to strengthen further up the field, and everyone's saying, well, they need a striker. You know, last season, everyone was like, no, Martial and Rashford and Greenwood are our way forward. And I think they probably still are. I think there's a place for Matic in the middle, just as that holding midfielder, and him alongside Pogba and alongside Fernandes and Van der Beek, of course. They've got options. So stop whinging, you know. They're still going to be there or thereabouts. I don't know what they have to moan about, all these Man U fans. Try being a West Ham fan.
Well, we'll come on to that in a minute. One of the comments I did like this week, or I say like, you know, it did make me chuckle, is that Harry Maguire turns like an ocean liner. Which was actually, I thought, quite funny. Although I do love Harry Maguire because I think he's got England written all over him. Do you know what I mean? You know, he loves playing for England and everything else. Is he worth 80 million? I don't think he is, but I just think he needs a nippy centre-half next to him, and I don't think that's Lindelof.
No, well, Lindelof's always been a problem. You know, they made do with him at the end of last season. And everyone forgets, you know, Fernandes came in January. He's like a new signing as well. So it is a matter of time. But, yeah, he does need the centre-half has always been a problem there. You know, they can't get rid of Phil Jones. They can't get rid of Smalling. You know, they've got plenty of centre-halves, but none of them are good enough. Yeah. And you need someone alongside Maguire who probably is a little bit nippier. You know, Maguire can do the heading. Maguire can bring the ball out from the back, but they do that little bit of pace.
Now, one thing that's broke over the last 24 hours is the COVID situation. Obviously, back in the UK, obviously more restrictions coming in. We were hoping that grounds were going to be able to put 10%, whatever it was, into, particularly in Premier League. You know, it would add some atmosphere to the grounds, and all of a sudden, that's sort of the rug has been pulled. This could be a situation that could last up to 6 months. Now, you're obviously in the UK. I'm not. What's the feeling? How's this going to work out for well, we're obviously concentrating on Premier League clubs. How's it going to work out for them?
Yeah, I mean, there's some frustration. I think the feeling is that if you're allowed to go on public transport wearing a mask and you're allowed to go in a shop wearing a mask, what's the big issue with going to a football match wearing a mask if you are socially distanced? And I think that's what's causing some consternation amongst football owners and football fans, because there's a lot of talk about when you're in the open air. Of course, the virus travels less, and you're more, you're safer and less likely to catch it if you are in the open air. So I think there's a lot of frustration that the rules on that aren't particularly clear. And obviously last weekend in the EFL, there were 10 games where 1,000 fans were let in, and you're talking 1,000 in stadiums of, capacities of around 25,000. So very well socially distant, but still providing a bit of atmosphere and a bit of income for some of these clubs. And it would be really useful for those. I mean, the Premier League financially, they're saying they're in trouble. They're saying how much they're losing. I think whether the government will help them out is a different matter, because I think it's probably really hard to justify when you're paying, I'll use Jack Grealish as an example from last week, £140,000 a week to players, and then you're going to the government with your cap out saying, please give us some more money because we're struggling. I think the lower tiers really will need some financial support, and that's going to be quite key. I think the sign that things are getting worse is last night, just an hour before kickoff, with 2 players named in the starting lineup and the manager. West Ham had 3 players who tested positive. Now, I mean, it's the first time David Moyes and the word positive have been used in the same sentence for years. I think there's no doubt about that. But when you're in that scenario, and I'm reading today, he had a sore throat, but he thought it was from shouting too much. We've got to get real with these things. We're all told if you have a sore throat or you have any of the symptoms, then you get yourself a test and you self-isolate yourself away until you get the results from that test. The worry for me, I know the Arsenal players who played against them on Saturday have been tested and came away clear.
Negative,
that's probably because Diop didn't get near any of them in the 90 minutes, so that's probably one of the reasons behind that. But it's important that this testing goes on. But lower league clubs, they're not having the testing. So I think you've got to do these things properly. Let's allow some fans back in, masked up in segregated areas, and then also we've got to extend the testing to the lower leagues, because when they come up against each other in the cup competitions like this, it's huge amounts of risk that are being put in play.
Yeah, and in reality, you don't really understand. I mean, Premier League clubs, as you just said, I think because of all the testing they're doing and everything else, that it's going to, they're probably going to be one of the cleanest places ever, Premier League clubs. And also, I don't really understand that you can walk into a pub with a mask on and sit and watch the game, but you can't go to an open air stadium and watch the game socially distanced from everybody else as well. It just seems a bit strange.
I think that's the issue, though, is the what goes on around the game. So it's the travelling to the game, it's the potential milling around afterwards in those social areas that the government are trying to have issues wrestling with. We've had test events at race courses, we've had test events at rugby, we had the EFL ones last week, which went off well. But I think in trying to find that clear and consistent message for people that football is going to suffer because of it. And I'm not sure that's right, because I think, football for most fans gives them a lift. It's, something to look forward to. It brightens up the weekend, unless, of course, you support a rubbish team. But we're removing that opportunity. And I think if we are going to lock down parts of society in this country, to have that little bit of escape and something to look forward to would actually be a really positive thing.
Yeah, and listen, I'm definitely of the opinion that, we are going to have to learn to live with this thing for quite a period of time. And if we have, then we're going to have to learn to get on with our lives a bit more. And I say protect the vulnerable, to protect the people that need to be protected. But for the majority, we just need to ourselves be as vigilant as we possibly can, do what we are told to do in regards to washing your hands, all that sort of thing, social distancing, wearing masks. I know wearing masks for you guys is, not a thing that you guys are used to, but over here in Spain, we've been doing that for about 3 or 4 months now. Walking into restaurants, bars, everywhere, we've literally had to wear masks. And whilst it's a pain and it's something normally you don't want to do, you wouldn't do it normally. You get used to it after a while, and you just if it means that you can still pretty much lead a normal life, then I'm just all for it, really.
Yeah, when you see a lot of people doing the garage forecourt dance, that's where they get out of the car, start to walk towards the garage, and then suddenly realise they haven't got their mask, and they have to wander back to go.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
It's fine. I think I have no problem with it, and I would quite merrily when I'm going to grounds. Every week at grounds, I have to wear my mask in. I'm temperature checked on the way in. All these things are feasible and doable. If you had to check 1,000 fans coming into a game and do their temperature and insist they had a mask and them to hand sanitize, I don't see the problem. I don't see how that's not feasible. I really don't.
Yeah. Let's get on with the games then, Adam, this weekend. First game kickoff, 12:30 your time, 1:30 my time. Brighton against Manchester United. Now, Brighton flew against Newcastle last weekend, and that was a bit of a surprise to most people. And Manchester United.
Was it really?
Well, I think because obviously, they lost their first game, don't forget, and Newcastle won their first game. Although Newcastle beat West Ham, I'm sorry, but
yeah, I was going to say. Well, I would argue that the way Brighton played against Chelsea, they were unlucky to lose in the manner that they did. I thought for long periods of the game they were excellent, and he's a great manager, Graham Potter. He's superb, and this is his chance to shine. Second season he just about kept them up last time round. This is his opportunity to really show what Brighton are made of. And I think they've been astute, some of the pickings, the signings they've made, and some of the youngsters they've got coming through. Really, really excited for what they've got to offer. Newcastle, Steve Bruce won't take that line down. He never does. Being humbled in the manner that they were. He'll have been upset by that. But I think Brighton are a really, really exciting side to watch, and Graham Potter plays exceptional football.
Prediction?
I think Brighton will win because they're really tricky to beat at home. So
Solskjaer out by 2:30.
No, I think Brighton could win that 2-1. I really do, because they are really good at home.
I'll pick a draw. I'll sit on the fence. Sorry, United fans. Right, listen to this one then. It's 5th against 2nd. Crystal Palace against Everton. How about that?
Well, who'd have thought that, eh? Who'd have thought that? But we're only 2 weeks in, so it's probably no great surprise. Again, every week's going to be a test for Everton in terms of if they've got the credentials, it's going to be going to places like Palace and coming away with a result. Can Rodriguez do what we want him to do when he's facing up against the likes of McCarthy and MacArthur, who are, not only are they similar in their names, but they're similar in the way they play. They'll be physical, they'll be in at him, but he's got that quality to create that space and that time to deliver. They've still got problems at the back, Palace, in terms of, a makeshift defence. So I think Everton will win. It'll be a tight game, but I think Everton will win.
Are you going to predict?
2-1.
Oh, okay. West Brom against Chelsea, 5 o'clock UK, 6 o'clock our time. That's an away win, isn't it?
Yes, it probably is an away win, but Lampard wants time. He said it's going to take me a couple of months to get these guys into shape. Well, he's obviously sorting out the keeper situation. That's being dealt with Mendy coming in from Rennes, which, again, he's getting the player that he wants. What I like about that signing is he said, look, I rely on Petr Cech for this one, because he knows a good goalkeeper when he sees one, and he backs this guy. And
didn't Cech play for Rennes before he came to Chelsea?
Yeah. So it's a good. I think it's a good signing for Chelsea. Have they clicked so far? No. Did they look fairly poor against Liverpool? Even when they had 11 men, they didn't look great. They weren't exciting going forward. Does he know his best team yet? Probably not. But he's got the likes of Pulisic and Ziyech to come back in, which I think will make a massive difference. In terms of West Brom, well, look, 2 weeks ago we predicted it, didn't we? We said they're not going to score enough goals. They have got some quality. The likes of Pereira and Diangana are excellent. I mean, a great goal he scored. Both of them scored at the weekend. That Pereira free kick, I mean, that was outstanding. That's one of the best you'll see this season.
Yeah.
But at the back, they're an absolute shambles. And how Slaven? I love Slaven more than I love Mourinho, which is difficult. But I love Slaven, and how he can even justify trying to question Mike Dean's decision. You cannot put your hands in a player's face in any time of football. But when there's VAR, absolutely no chance you're going to get away with it. So he shouldn't have lost his cool. His passion does boil over sometimes, Slaven. He's going to get charged. He's probably going to end up in the stands. But they need him, and they need his passion. But more than that, they need a striker. But I'm hearing rumours there's not a lot of money to go around for them to buy a decent striker. And all the time they don't strengthen at the back. Ivanovic at, 36? It's not going to make a difference, is he? And they've got no one to pop the ball in the back of the net. So Chelsea are going to get off the mark, and I think they'll do it by 3-1.
Just as a thing, though, that it's something that we obviously don't see that often because the referees are quite protected. But I thought as a fan, it was actually great to hear and see the manager question the referee at half-time. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was box office.
Yeah, but people are having a go at Mike Dean and saying he's arrogant. Well,
he is.
Mike Dean's never going to change, it's not going to happen. He's never going to change his ways. But almost in some ways, I thought he was trying to do Slav a favour. I'm going to stick up for him a little bit here. I thought he was trying to do him a favour by saying, look, go away because you're going to get yourself into trouble, son. Go away before it escalates. And yes, Slav didn't swear, which is fantastic. And, that's good of him. But just listen, there's things to get passionate about and there's things to argue over. That Gibbs red card was a red card every day because you can't put your hands in someone's face like that. So you're going to need to win some battles over the months. Save your passion for the ones you can win.
Burnley Southampton, are we going to talk too much about that one? It's probably one of the boring games of the weekend, maybe. Sorry, Burnley Southampton fans.
Listen, in terms of, sometimes you have to spend and you have to recruit just to stand still. And neither of those sides have really recruited. And that worries me. The way Spurs were able to dismantle Southampton in the second half on Sunday, I think is worrying for the Saints. I think Burnley, Leicester are a good side. They're backfiring again. Rodgers has got them going. And they look dangerous at set pieces and they look well organised as they always do. But the loss of players like Hendrick, will make a difference. So do I care about either of them? No. Do I think they're both going to end up in the lower reaches of the table? Absolutely, I do. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, I probably much agree with you on that one. Okay, Sunday. What a great game to wake up to on Sunday. A midday kickoff your time, 1:00 my time. It's a Yorkshire derby. This hasn't been in for a long time. Sheffield United against Leeds United. Now, Sheffield United's second season syndrome, is that hitting for them? And then Leeds, 2-4-3s in their opening two games. I mean, what do you reckon?
Firstly, what time do you wake up? That's my point number one. Because midday ain't waking up time for me, mate. Let me tell you.
Really, Adam? Come on, what are you doing?
Listen, I'll be a game of football down then, but the Sunday League will be done and dusted by that time. Don't you worry. Yorkshire derby. I mean, it's a long time since this game's taken place. What do we love about Leeds so far? We love the fact they play on the front foot. We love the fact they attack. Clearly, if Fulham can score 3 times against them, there's a few issues at the back. Yeah. Llorente looks like he's coming in today, doesn't he, to try and bolster the back line? Yeah,
that central defender, what's his name? Robin Koch or something, is it? That is that. I don't want to go too far down the road here, but 2 penalties in 2 games isn't good.
Yeah, no, it's not good, but they'll be exciting going forward. Look, Patrick Bamford last year, he won 10, 11 goals in the Championship. He's flying so far. And they're always going to be on the front foot. They will always be on the front foot. Sheffield United, I think they did it's never a red card in my book against Villa. Never a red card. The referee, he's gone too early. He's not taken his time on that decision.
Can I just ask,
actually, 50-50.
Can I just ask, with that situation, because obviously the referee changed his mind in the Chelsea game by sending off the Chelsea, whose name escapes me, I can't remember.
Christensen.
Thank you. But the referee in the Sheffield United Aston Villa game didn't go to VAR. Why was that?
So it comes down to, obviously in the Chelsea game, it was a yellow card to start with. That then gives that little bit of leeway to the video assistant referee to say, well, actually, I think you need to come over and have a look at this. Mm-hmm. What happened in the Villa game is Graham Scott pulls out the red card straight away. I don't know why I'm doing this, because this is what he did at the time.
Doesn't work if you're listening on radio.
he pulled it out straight away without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then Mike Dean decided that it wasn't enough of a clear and obvious error to say to him, I think you've made a mistake.
But isn't that where VAR's wrong then?
Correct. Yeah, because it's an obvious mistake. But then I'm saying to Graham Scott, Graham, just take a moment. And because you've got VAR, show the yellow card, and if Mike Dean thinks you've got it wrong, he will very much, and Mike Dean likes a red card, he will say to you, come over and have a look. And I think he'll come over and have a look and go, no, actually, Mike, I think I'm right. It's not a red card, because it wasn't. aside from that, Sheffield United did really well. I thought they kept in the game. Oh yeah, Gabby Agbonlahor say today Villa were bossing it before that. They didn't have a shot on goal, despite they were playing against 10 men in the whole of the first half. So I think Sheffield United did okay. Chris Wilder, I said to you at the start of the season, it'll be tougher because people will know how to get round them. Chris Wilder's going to have to work really hard. They'll be all right. They'll get beaten on Sunday, but they're going to be all right going forward.
Oh, you say they get beat?
I think Leeds will beat them. Yeah, I think Leeds will beat them.
I'm going Sheffield United.
Oof.
What do you mean? Oof? Huh?
Controversial.
Well, the fact that the boss of this particular Zoom call is a Sheffield United fan might.
Oh, you could have told me that, couldn't you?
Brilliant. Right, let's moving on. Spurs against Newcastle. Both teams have won a game, lost a game. One has been very good in one game and very bad in another. So it's sort of two teams clashing at the same time. Although I would imagine that Spurs at home, you'd pick them, would you?
Spurs will win. Yeah, I think they'll have the confidence. I think, Harry Kane providing 4 assists is just quite extraordinary. And Son obviously scoring 4 goals. The understanding between those two is superb. The key to Spurs season will be getting Bale fit and firing and keeping Harry Kane fit. That's the key to it. If they can keep Harry Kane for long periods, he will score 25 goals without a doubt. You've got Son chipping in probably with 20, and you're looking at Bale adding maybe 15, and then the spattering coming from elsewhere in the team. All of a sudden, you're looking at a side that got potentially 70 goals in them, which will get them where they need to get to. And they'll have too much for Newcastle. I think there's no doubt about that.
Prediction?
I think it'll be 3-1.
Okay. Manchester City against Leicester City might be an interesting game, actually. I thought City looked very good against Wolves. I even thought the back pairing of Stones and Ake was a good pairing together. I actually thought, the Wolves have obviously got an attacking way of playing. They did, listen, let's be honest, they did miss a lot of chances as well, Wolves. They did have a lot of chances in their game. And Leicester as well. I mean, okay. I mean, I don't know about Leicester this season. I'm not quite sure which way to look at them.
Leicester have started like they did last season. They started incredibly well. But I think what we saw last season was when they come up against the big guys, then it tends to go a little bit wrong for them. They didn't beat any of the top 6, I don't think, last season. And don't quote me on that. That's purely from memory. I think that it's something like that. And that was their downfall in the end. That's what stopped them staying in the top 4. Because whenever they come up against some of the big guns, the Liverpools, etc., it tended to not go their way. I think what I loved about City the other night, yes, Ake and Stones didn't look a bad pairing. Remember, you got Laporte to come back in as well. I thought in the first half in particular, the fact that he paired Rodri and Fernandinho together really did make a massive difference to City. They had that solid foundation. And then the other key thing for me was seeing Kevin De Bruyne a little bit further forward. So I thought Foden would be the one who would really benefit from David Silva going. But actually, I think Kevin De Bruyne is going to be the one that's going to benefit from Silva going, because he's now in that more natural 10 role. Not only can he hit the most exquisite passes and deliver in the manner he does, but then when you see him now with the ball at feet, able to run at teams and some of the tricks he's got, I think he's the outstanding. He's behind Messi and Ronaldo in the best players in the world. I've got no doubt about that. So I think that's going to be key for City. I think that will be too much for Leicester City. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So I'm going to go for a Man City win. Because I think Leicester will do well this season, but I think they're going to have similar problems when they come up against the real quality. They haven't got enough to quite break them down. So I'm going to go for a Man City 2-0 victory.
Final game on Sunday, 7 o'clock your time, 8 o'clock my time. West Ham are playing Wolves. Your team, West Ham. What's going on? I saw it. I didn't actually hear it. I'm going to go back and listen to it. David Gold was doing an interview on radio today and saying that they don't want to spend too much money as it will bankrupt the club, and they've made mistakes in the past. They've let managers in the past make decisions, or directors of football make decisions on buying players. I'll let you spout off. Go on.
Well, firstly, it was David Sullivan, because David Gold would never be that foolish. In fact, I spoke to someone today who said that they had agreed between them that no one was going to talk to the press. So David Sullivan decided to do an interview on TalkSport today. Shock horror, surprise. Well,
one thing about that, though, that I did find interesting, it wasn't a live interview; it was a pre-record. Yeah,
well, he won't talk to fans. I mean, there's no two ways about that. So, key points from the interview today. we let the director of football work for the manager. Well, find me a football club where the director of football works for the manager. That's not quite how it works. So that all went wrong. He's only ever bought 2 players for the club. So Mr. Sullivan in the past has a history, particularly at Birmingham, of buying the manager presents, as he used to call them. He insists the 2 that he's bought are Fabianski and Diop. So he's, 2 who've done particularly well. Everyone else was wanted by the director of football or by the manager. He said he's wasted money on basically duff players, and he's not going to let that happen again. Bearing in mind, most of those duff players he's talking about are in our current squad right now. So that's really good motivation, Mr. Sullivan. Well done. He wishes we'd got knocked out in the Carabao Cup because it cost them 50 grand to put the game on and they could do without the hassle of it. I mean, you could take as many sound bites as you want from that interview today. He has no regrets about selling Grady Diangana because we've got better wingers at the club. These are the same wingers he just talked about being duff players that he bought for the manager. I mean, take your pick. The whole place is an actual disaster right now. But the bottom line of it is we've got £40 million for transfers, apparently. He can't afford the players that David Moyes wants. So the chances are we're not going to buy any players. That's the reality of it all. And actually, we played okay against Arsenal. And if we play like that every week, we might get ourselves some points.
I'll be honest with you,
I think
Alan.
you have to balance that with Arsenal were quite poor for long periods of the game. And that wasn't down to West Ham playing really well. I just think it was one of those games where Arsenal weren't firing on all cylinders, to be honest with you. So what's going on? I don't know. It's a disaster. I feel disconnected with my football club. I feel sometimes that, I didn't cheer when we scored. My house usually erupts because my son's a West Ham fan too. Neither of us really cheered. We just kind of went, oh, that's nice. Because we are that disaffected with our team right now. So playing against the Wolves side who turned us over twice last season incredibly easily, with the quality they've got, with us going to be missing Diop because he's going to have to self-isolate, obviously. I mean, the only bonus is that the manager's going to be self-isolating and therefore that might help us. But I see nothing but a Wolves victory. Nothing but Wolves victory by at least 2-0.
Oh dear, disenchanted from Birmingham there. Brilliant, isn't it?
Also, yeah, but everyone's saying, oh, but look at last night. We beat Hull. Hull are a League One team now, kids. If we can't beat Hull in the Carabao Cup, we're in real trouble. And all the goals were scored by these terrible players that don't get picked.
Well, let's see. Finally, on Monday, we've got 2 games. Fulham against Aston Villa. Fulham need to get themselves off and kicking, don't they? They're conceding a lot of goals. And although they did score 3 against Leeds, conceded 4, 3 against Arsenal. And Villa, who, haven't started too bad. And, of course, have signed Martinez, which I think is a great signing for them. Yeah,
I think he showed that already in game 1. I think Villa will be fine. Are they going to be the most interesting team to watch? I don't think so. Are they going to win enough points to stay up? Probably, because they've recruited well. Again, we come back to that whole thing about sometimes recruiting to stand still. Well, they've gone, I think, a step further with this purchase, with Traore coming in, obviously with Matty Cash as well, and obviously bringing in Watkins and Martinez, and then Jack Grealish staying, because we talked about that last time as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good business. Jack is like a new signing, really. Convincing him to stay is really positive. So I think they'll be fine. So Scott Parker's a good coach, there's no doubt about it, but you've got to give him the tools to do the job. Mitrovic will win them games because he will score goals, there's no doubt about that. But I think they're going to find it really tough and they need to get some reinforcements in really quickly. But they've got to turn Craven Cottage into a fortress. That was always going to be tough against an Arsenal side with the quality that you've got. So I think actually they may grind out a point on Monday night against them.
Probably the biggest game of the weekend, maybe. Liverpool against Arsenal, of course. So what we're talking, 3rd against 4th, really. Who'd have said that? Maybe.
Well, then look, the fixture computer is not making it easy for Liverpool, is it? I mean, you open up against Leeds, a rampant Leeds full of confidence. Then you go to Stamford Bridge, and then you've got Arsenal coming to you. And is this going to say more, this fixture, about Liverpool, or is it going to say more about Arsenal? And I think it's the latter, actually.
I agree.
I've seen Arsenal go there and be 4-0 down in 20 minutes. Because
funny enough, I was in Miami with some friends of mine watching the game. Sometime around Christmas, I seem to think it was, and we got absolutely battered in the first half. I can't remember how many it was.
Well, you stood off them. It was a Wenger tactic.
I think we went 1-0 up.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, the problem is you stood off them and allowed Liverpool to dominate, and that'll be the question mark for me on Monday night, is how Arsenal go about it. What we saw at the back end of last season with your trophy wins, etc., is that actually you find a way to play against these teams. Now, Arteta's clever. He's not stupid. He'll set the team up to try and nullify what Liverpool have got to offer. And that's why, for me, I think we'll learn more about Arsenal on Monday night and their potential this season than we will about Liverpool. I mean, we talked last time about Liverpool and their poor recruitment and how we thought it was going to problem. Well, they've picked up the best signing of the window in Thiago. There's no two ways about that. And then the Jota thing is just a brilliant piece of business. I mean, 41 million is not cheap, but actually to provide competition for those front three, I think it's an excellent piece of business, and it will reap rewards for them. There's no two ways about it. So, you know, I'll doff my old cap to Jurgen Klopp. They've not spent a lot of money. You know, that's in total, you know, not huge amounts, 60 million for a club Liverpool size who's just won the Premier League. But actually, it's clever business. He's got the business done that he wanted to get done. I agree with you. They're a bit short on the centre-half position if they pick up injury. But then Fabinho proved on Sunday that he can slot in there without a problem. So I hate to do this to you. I think Liverpool will win, but I think it'll be tight and it'll be a late winner and it'll be 2-1.
Interestingly enough, after the new rules of COVID came out yesterday and they said the pubs had to shut at 10 o'clock, they've actually now moved the kickoff time of this game to 8 o'clock because people were complaining that they were going to get kicked out of the pub 15 minutes before the end of the game. And so it's all been moved to 8 o'clock kickoff on Monday.
I did see that, and imagine what they'd be saying if they could actually travel to the game, because the last train back from Liverpool is about 9:30, isn't it? So in that respect, it's probably no bad thing that no fans can travel.
I did mention to my Liverpool friends that it'll probably all be over by then, you know, and not to worry for you guys. You know, if you had been in the ground, most of you would have been home by then, home and hosed, because we'll be showing you, as we have done the last two games, how well and how much more we've improved. He said, hopingly, on Monday.
Do you agree? We'll learn more about where Arsenal are at. It's
definitely.
It's really key how they react to this game and how they respond and how they set out their stall.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest with you, and you're right, they didn't play well against West Ham. They were awful, to be perfectly honest. I thought we were lucky to get away with a win. But, you know, win ugly, get 3 points, you know, that's important going forward. I think because we've been bad against top six teams over the last few years, we have played better with Arteta. I think you're right. He will set up a lot better. We will definitely press. I think we missed Tierney, actually, to be honest with you, on Monday. Kolasinac wasn't in Tierney's league whatsoever. I like the new centre half, Gabriel. I think he's strong. He's got a great pass, and not much will get past him. He's going to need to be on his game against obviously that front three. So let's see. That's, you know, I mean, listen, if you said to me right now you can have a draw, I probably would take it. But to go to Anfield and get a victory would be a huge step forward for Arsenal. To get a loss would be maybe a step back right now. But, you know, it's early season. Let's see. Maybe a good time to play them.
You haven't said what's going to happen yet.
I'll stick my neck out and go, we'll win 2-1. Come on, I've got to go for my team, haven't I, Adam? Come on.
Yeah. Those rose-tinted contact lenses.
Oh, you know me. Exactly. Listen, thank you very much. We will talk again. Actually, when we talk again, the transfer window would have just shut, actually. We're back again in 2 weeks. Transfer window just so we can obviously look at all the look at how all the teams have fared, if there's been any panic buys, what we think has been a good buy, who's had a good transfer window, who hasn't. But after that, obviously, then we'll see how how the results have gone over the last couple of weeks. Adam, next time, what will you be in, a scarf and a woolly hat, or
absolutely.
what? Listen,
we'll be in October by then.
Really? Okay, listen.
No doubt about it.
Take care. Good to talk to you as always, and I'll speak to you in a couple of weeks.